Hey, I'm Ashley Parkhouse, and these are the top 3 at-home stretches for low back pain. All you need is to be at home, to have a sofa or something similar readily available, and ideally a foam roller, but you could use anything that you can pop your hands on at a similar height. Now, the very first exercise that we're going to use is called the couch stretch. And what it's going to be doing is stretching the front of the quads. And the reason that we want to do that is because if these muscles here are tight, they pull the pelvis forwards. Now, if my pelvis is pulled forwards, what's that doing to my low back? Right? That's going to leave me in an arch position. And then that means everything I do, every step I take, is going to put pressure into this low back. So if we can take tension out of here, we can open that up. So the first stretch, what we're doing is starting on our hands and knees. Okay, one knee is going to go all the way up against the corner of the sofa, the edge of the sofa, here. Once it's there, we can then ideally, we're trying to take the opposite foot up in line with the hands. And then, for a lot of people with low back pain, if this is one of the causes, then this is going to be very tight, even here, and this may even be difficult to even get that foot up. But in an ideal world, what we're looking to do is gradually work ourselves up. This is why I have a foam roller, so that we can push onto this, and eventually get to a point where we can be fully upright with the back flat, not arched. Okay, and when you're here, when you're in your end position, you want to think about trying to squeeze that glute, squeeze that bum cheek, and that's going to help really open the quad, because we want strong glutes and flexible quads to ensure that we have no pressure on that low back. Now, if getting up into that position, or even here, is too difficult, too challenging, luckily, we can use the back of the sofa. So if I get myself up on the back of the sofa, I can work this knee all the way back here against the edge. Now, because this foot is down off the edge, this is much less pressure on the quad. And then I can gradually work my way up. And then when that's nice and flexible, we can look to bring the foot up or go to the bottom position. So that's the first stretch, that's stretch number 1. And that's again for opening up the quads, taking pressure off the low back. The second stretch is called pigeon. Okay, and we can do this elevated. So we actually want to do this on a high position. This is going to stretch around the back of the hip, some of the little glute muscles, and the piriformis. You may have heard that one with piriformis syndrome or sciatica, things like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and line up the ankle and the knee along the edge of the sofa, like so. So I'm getting my ankle and my knee in line. I'm flexing my foot back and I'm bringing my knee down. And my first goal is to get as upright as possible and think of trying to squeeze this bum cheek. If I can do this and this isn't too tight, I'm going to then try and fold forwards and allow that stretch to stretch into my lumbar spine and my low back as well. Okay, you can also push down on the knee to make that more available and to access that better. From a side view, we can see that this is the kind of shape we're going for. Ideally, the more you can have a 90-degree angle in the knee, the better. And this is helping the rotators of the hips, so the hips can open. And again, that takes pressure off of the low back because it doesn't have to work as hard. As you get much better at that movement, you can gradually take it down to the floor, which you may have seen before. But again, we would want to focus on ankle and knee being in line, the hips being square so they're not turned out, they're lined up. And then for this one, it's more important to work on being upright than to fold over, because naturally it's going to pull you forwards a little bit. So fighting to be upright will actually give you a better stretch and relief from the low back. And the third one that we're going to do is to stretch these tiny little rotators on the side of the hip that also then travels down the side of the leg. And this can be a really common one to also replicate those sciatica type sensations and that nervy pain that can travel all the way down the leg. So don't be surprised if these are very tight or if it recreates a little bit of that pain. Ideally, we want to get as upright as possible. So I use the back of the edge of the sofa for this. And what we're going to do is we're going to cross our legs. And then one leg is going to cross on top of the other. Okay, so we bring the ankle up and over onto the leg, And you see at first this knee will be quite high. We're trying to get everything nice and in line with each other. And don't be surprised if you're all the way up here. And if you are, you can do an alternative stretch where you just step over and stretch around like so. But if you can, you want to try and work this knee down towards the other ankle. And as you press down, as long as you're nice and upright, you should feel a stretch around the side of the hip. Okay? So again, this is going to take tension out of those rotators and allow the low back to move more comfortably without it having to overwork and get fatigued. And you would obviously try this on both sides, as you would with any of the stretches. You'll also find that a lot of these will be worse on one side if you have one side low back pain as well. Like so. Okay, so my advice is to use these every day if you can until they're at a good level. You want to get the cross legs, knees down to ankles. The pigeon stretch, you want to be able to get your chest down to the sofa. And on that couch stretch, you want to be able to get nice and upright and be able to squeeze the glutes. Okay, I would do this typically 45 seconds, each stretch, each leg as a minimum, but ideally work up towards sort of 2-minute sets. If you have time in the evenings and you watch TV, advert breaks are a great time to do these stretches. And if not, try and make some time in your day to do them, either in the evening to calm down, work with your breath, or in the mornings to limber up a little bit before you start your day. Okay, let me know in the comments below how it helps.